Good evening, Meticulous Moments audience. We are so happy that you've joined us here for yet another session where we facilitate community upliftment through leadership development. And tonight, for the first time in Meticulous Moments history, we have a guest back for the third time. And he is none other than the fabulous Bill Clark. And he's in the green room with me. But before I bring him on, I just want to read his bio to you. You may have seen world champion, world record holding powerlifter, Guinness Book of World Records title holder, professional strongman, martial arts instructor, and motivational speaker Bill Clark on ESPN, Fox News, CNN, or on Fox Footy WICZ TV's Monday Motivation. Bill is also featured in the Ripley's Believe It or Not museums around the world and has been on national and international TV shows and programs. Some of Bill's world records include a 570-pound bench press, 740-pound deadlift, and a 355-pound bench press for 31 reps in less than 1 minute, ripping 29 license plates in two and bending 7 steel railroad spikes to an angle greater than 90 degrees in 1 minute. Bill was featured on the inside cover of the 2020 Guinness Book of World Records and on the Times Square Jumbotron with Mariah Carey in New York City. Bill has been inducted into a number of halls of fame, including the World Hall of Fame and the Greater Binghamton Sports Hall of Fame. Bill was named one of the strongest men to ever walk the planet, and he's also a first-degree black belt in jiu-jitsu, submission wrestling, and self-defense instructor. And he owns Bill Clark Strength, where he trains people in optimal mental and emotional mindset and performance, powerlifting, and weightlifting. And we are going to call this the Bill Clark Trilogy of Strength. So I want you to put your hands together and welcome the amazing Bill Clark. How are you, Bill?
Oh, I'm outstanding. Juanita, thank you so much for having me on again. It's, again, a true pleasure to be with you. And I greatly appreciate, the kindness that you've shown me and being invited back a third time. I don't know what I did to deserve such a thing, but thank you so very kindly for having me, and hello to everybody out there.
Thank you, Bill. We are really inspired by your family values, your morals, the system, according to which you work, the things that you are doing in society. And you and I just got to a few topics in our last session. And, it's a fitting thing to put you on for a third time so that we can delve into the other topics that we wanted to discuss. And I want you to just, say to the audience, how has your week been? And what personal lessons have you learned this week?
So my week has been fantastic. Again, I've had a number of difficulties this week, but it's in those difficulties that you find opportunities. And I just spoke about this today, actually, that champions don't. Oftentimes we have a little bit of a different language. And so when you look at Webster's dictionary and, you look at the word failure or difficulty or whatever, to me, that's really opportunity. It's an opportunity to get better. It's an opportunity to move forward. So in those difficulties are great opportunities. But it takes a matter of perceiving them that way. Not always easy to do. As we know, life could be very, very challenging. But for everybody out there, I can promise you where you start out is not where you end up. And so you have to look, if you're going to become your best, you have to train yourself to see through the eyes, right? See through the eyes of faith. Because the eyes do something, right? They create, obviously they're important in vision. But the truth is, I could have you shut your eyes right now. And if I asked you to see a green flying elephant in your mind, you'd be able to do it. So that we don't just see with our eyes, we actually see with our mind. We see with our brain. That gives us the ability to perceive things as we want, as we choose to do so. If you want to become your best, you got to choose. And this takes practice, it takes training and a lot of reps. But if you want to become the very best you could be and you want to make every day count, you do this by perceiving the opportunity in the situation. And, through that, because I'll tell you, difficulties are going to come either way. They're going to happen either way. So you might as well make the most of them and learn from that process. So my week has been great. And how about yours?
It's been amazing. It's been amazing. Here at Meticulous, we never have a dull moment. I see life as an adventure. And like you, if there's an obstacle, I make it an opportunity because I know in that obstacle or in that opportunity that I create, I learn a lot about myself. I learn a lot about others and I learn a lot about the situation. And I take those tools that I learned that I gather together and I apply them when I face another obstacle. So thank you for asking. It's been amazing.
I'm so happy to hear that. And you know that I always think the structure has to be stronger than the storm.
Oh,
And
yes.
and to me, there's four parts that make, if you could see, I'm holding up four fingers. It looks like I was holding up three. I got four here. but, but there's four parts to our structure, right? Spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical, because emotional and mental are different. But you
Yes.
have to develop all four of them because the difficulties of the situation will expose the weaknesses in all of them, depending on the storm, right? So when you get the storm, you sit back, you evaluate, and you strategize, and you come out better than you were before. And the second time you come across the storm, it's going to be a lot easier. Not because the storm let up, but because we got stronger. And
Mm,
that's what we're always trying to preach here. Is that
yeah,
you gotta make those four parts of everybody's structure stronger. And
that's it.
so yeah, well, I'm glad to hear so much that everything's good, and I had a great week, and yeah, finding the opportunity in the obstacle, right?
That's it, because that's how you find joy. I was in a podcast as a guest, and nobody had ever asked me the question in this manner. They asked me, "What is your definition of success?" And I said, "Well, if I'm happy, I feel successful, because then I feel I can change the world." So, when we see the opportunity rather than the obstacle, it brings back that joy, that vigor, that passion. And I always teach people, Bill, when we face something, we shouldn't really respond with our emotions. We should rather detach our emotions and think in a level-headed manner and then address the situation for what it is. Because people either think of it emotionally and they make the wrong decisions, or they internalize it and they feel that that problem is their fault. It's a problem, it's something separate from yourself. And you should view it as such. And then it's easier to put those blocks and that foundation that you spoke about together and to overcome it.
I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. And to piggyback off of what you're saying, I talk a lot about responding versus reacting, right?
Oh,
So a reaction, that's innate, right? If you throw a ball at a kid, a little child, right, and you just try to play catch with the little child, and you throw the ball, they won't know what to do with it. They're gonna get
yes,
their hands up, and they're just gonna try to just block the ball from hitting in the head. If they're young enough, they won't even know enough to do that. That's the reaction. This the
yes.
response is being trained how to catch the ball, right?
Mhm.
Comes together, you catch the ball. That's the response.
Yes,
Responses, dare I say, are at least almost always superior to reactions.
yes.
So
Yeah.
responses are trained. That's the idea. So we
Mhm.
train ourselves to be able to perform in different situations. And that's what gives you the advantage, is that training and that practice, those reps. And this
That's
is the
it.
grinding part of it, right? I mean, this is the part where you don't want to. It's 6 o'clock at night, and I've already worked out twice, and
Yeah.
my favorite TV show is on, but I got to go train. And it's that moment that will help to define the outcomes
Mm.
of your life. It's those habits that you build. So, if you watch, I was just I did a speech for a professional hockey team, and I
Oh,
was doing some mind performance training for them. They were getting ready for the playoffs, and so I was talking to the goalie, and I said, and now correct me if I'm wrong. I don't play hockey, okay, so I don't know much about it. I mean, I know the game, and I like the game, but I've never played it.
yeah.
Or I mean, I don't have skates. I never learned how to ice skate. The grapplers don't really make a living on the ice. So, but I said,
Yes.
can you see that puck? Because it's going at what, 90 miles an hour, and he said, no, I don't see it. I said, so let me see if I can get this right. I said, you don't see the puck, but you're able to make the save. I'm going to guess because you've seen this so many times over and over and over that you're picking it up as it leaves the stick. And then you already know the trajectory of the puck because you've done it since you were a little child, you know. And he said, that's exactly right. I see it leave the stick. That's all I could do. After that, I know where it's going because it's happened so many times that I know where to put my body. He said, and that's why guys try to get in front and put a stick on it to deflect it, because then it changes the trajectory and I don't have a response for that. And he said, I don't have a reaction for that. But his language is a little different than mine. And that's, you know, again, to me, that's a response, right?
Yes.
I don't know how you build a response to such a thing because the mind just doesn't move quick enough. And I guess that's the advantage that an offensive player would have. But again, that you know, what we oftentimes think of as quick reactions, they're not. They're response. We've done this so many times that we've created neural pathways that if somebody, in your case, right, somebody punches, we block, right?
Yes.
In my case, somebody punches, I duck under, pick them up, and slam them. So, yeah. But they all have the same outcome, really, is to defend yourself well.
Yeah.
Again, that's what you've been trained to do, is to fend off. That's a response.
Yes. I agree with you. And that's why we continually engage in personal and professional development, because we build up those responses, and through building up those responses, we position ourselves to be ready when, you know, certain situation presents ourselves. And also we learn a lot about body language. I'm sure he reads the body language as well to see which way the body is turning. And the same in martial arts, in jiu-jitsu, in that, you have to anticipate what the opponent's next move is going to be. So many life lessons integrated right there.
Yeah, that's right. And it's so true, because that's why you fake one way and go another. Right.
That's it.
And then we test our skills, and we're constantly, again, getting better.
Yes.
But what we're doing is we're chasing what other people run from. We're heading right into this, right?
Yes.
I was talking to another guy, another jiu-jitsu guy, and he said that and I thought this was pretty cool. This was, I say, just talking to him. So to me, everything is just a few minutes ago. This was years ago. and he said, you know, one of the things I love to do is I love to get in the worst positions possible and have people try to tap me out, because that makes my defenses better.
Yes.
He said, but, you know, the thing is, you're going to be sacrificing some of today's mental and emotional security, because you know, you're going to get tapped out. If you let people put you in these holes, they're going to, you know, they're going to squeeze you and tighten you up, and so you have to tap out. But it also helps you to learn and go forward.
Yeah.
So he thought that was one of the best training tools that he could ever do. Excuse me. He thought that was one of the best training exercises that he could ever have, was to put himself into the most difficult situations in training, so that when he got into competition, he'd be very well prepared. And again, you know, oftentimes I think people that are really pursuing excellence make a habit of finding, like, actively searching for life's difficulties to get better. That's it. That's the bottom line, right?
Choosing those challenges and tapping out a few times in class, in training, because then when you get to the tournament or the all-star or the national, you've been in those difficult situations and you know how to get out of it. I love that. And face these challenges head on. Look for them and face them. Nothing good comes out of running away from something. Face them head on, because there's a lesson to be learned each and every time.
Absolutely. And you know, this is something that I try to hit home with today's kids, because they have been so well conditioned to run, to get out of the situation, to run away. And I'm not talking about physical, I'm not talking anything about physical force or violence, nothing like that. But the emotional problems. You know, I need to take a walk. I need to get out of the classroom. I need to go here. I need to run. No, you need to be trained on how to handle the situation, not run from it. That's it. We're greatly missing at least here in where I'm from, greatly missing the boat on this. And I hope that people will see the value
Really?
in becoming strong, right? Again,
Yes.
mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally.
Yeah.
Four parts, the four structures, the four parts that make up our
Mm.
humanity. And you can't neglect any of them.
No.
Do the situation will expose wherever you're weak.
Mm. Mm. And if you run from things, the children are not gonna develop emotional intelligence, because the only way you develop emotional intelligence is to be in those difficult spots, and really to stretch yourself and your beliefs, and to see why other people believe certain things, why other people do certain things a certain way, and then to find that middle ground. So emotional intelligence is a big topic at the moment. I'm glad you brought up the youngsters. We have to develop them in all arenas.
Yeah, I think people oftentimes confuse the two, and it's easy to do because you can't really have a thought without having an emotion follow it, right? Because every thought changes the chemistry of your blood. So, and you can see the brain light up. Anytime you think anything, the brain lights up here, over here, over here. So I can understand where the confusion is, but to clarify, mental strength is the ability to concentrate. So
Mm.
I have a task. You can have all kinds of things going on around me, and my job it's almost like blinders around. Now that can become a problem too if you're in situations where you need to have a lot of periphery going on. But
Yeah.
but your ability to concentrate and move from one thing to the next and still have 100% concentration at A and then quickly move over to B, that's mental strength.
Yes.
Emotional strength is the ability to recover from a setback.
Mm.
And it's the time that it takes to
Yeah,
recover that determines your level of emotional toughness.
that's it.
For example, something happens in life that's unfortunate. Um, and again, there's some very serious tragedies out there where we don't expect people to bounce right back up. I mean, we have to. And I shouldn't say we don't expect it, because ideally we would like that. And that's what we're shooting for, right? But if
Yes.
something in life happens, and let's take something simple like a baseball player misses a ground ball.
Mm.
The easiest way I can explain this.
Yeah.
The ball is hit. Somebody's supposed to catch the ball. They miss it. Okay. The body, the nervous system is going to flood with negative chemicals. You're going to have a quick depression. But you need to physically do something. You have to develop a behavior to reset and get yourself back.
Yes.
The quicker you can do that, the better off you're going to be for yourself and for your team and for everybody else involved.
Mm.
If you don't do that and you're continuing to think about the play you just missed, another ball is going to get hit you and you're going to miss that one too, because you were thinking about what happened 30 seconds a minute ago.
Yeah.
So you have to learn to reset. And that ability, that time that it takes to move from the unfortunate circumstance back to equilibrium. We're going to drop down. We got to get back.
Yeah.
The quicker we do that, the better off we're going to be. And that's the definition really of emotional toughness.
Yeah.
So, it's a key to becoming. Disappointments are going to happen. Got to get back right away.
Yeah. Brush it off, bounce back. Tomorrow will be better, or the next day will be better. Now, I want to ask you about,
No, go ahead. I'm listening.
I wanted to ask you, because you were a salted public speaker, and you had some phenomenal topics here. I wanted to ask you, how does a person go about creating a winning culture?
Well, so, for me, I grew up behind the curve. What I mean by that is, we didn't have a phone. We couldn't afford a telephone. We couldn't afford heat in the house. Other kids had, these things. I'm going to school with these kids. And not that they were bad or anything like that, but when you see everybody else with new clothing and you see, and you don't have this, then you start to develop a perception, because when you're a child, you don't have the training yet to understand that there's more to life than these things. I shouldn't say that, because I knew that there was, but at the same time, that still plays a role. much less than it would as an adult. Because as an adult, you're much more aware, of the world and secure with what you're doing, I hope. So for me, I grew up behind the curve. So to end up where I am now tells me that this process is doable for anybody. And people ask me all the time, they say, geez, I just had a school contact me and said, look, we're really having a hard time. Teams are always losing. We want to bring you in and we want to develop a culture of winning. They said a culture of success. I said, well, first of all, forget the word success. Start shooting for excellence. That's the first thing we need to do. We need to stop worrying about success because success is always at the mercy of the variables by which we measure it. I could bring the net way down and everybody will slam dunk a basketball, but you still weren't great. Success, maybe, but not great. We need to shoot as high as we got to put the bullseye higher.
Yes.
So that's the first thing, right? Is understanding that we're shooting for the best we can be. Yeah. Now, the outcomes of your life, and I'm gonna go backwards for a minute, and then I'll bring it all forward again because it'll make better sense.
Yeah.
The outcomes of your life are determined by your habits. What we do over and over and over again. See, people make a mistake. Let's take an athlete that's late for practice. Okay, it's a mistake. Fix it. That's not a habit. You were late for practice once. That's not going to turn you into a total. It's not going to cut you from the team. You're not going to be a total failure at the sport. It was a mistake. But if you do this enough times, then yes, it will affect your performance. And it will affect everybody else's performance around you.
Yeah.
So the habits of your life determine the outcomes. You develop great habits, you got great things coming. You develop bad habits, there should be no mystery, right? This is what you signed up for. Yeah. So then the question is, well, what builds a habit? And that's your culture. Your culture is the way you live your life. That's the things that we do every single day. It's what music we listen to. It's what we watch. It's who we talk to. It's who we hang around. It's what we eat. It's how we train. Do we go to the gym and just go through the motions, or are we really training hard? Your culture is the way you live your life. And it stands to reason that creates your habits. Now, the question is, what determines, and this is really the whole key, in my opinion, to developing a culture of excellence. What determines the way you live your life? It's your identity. How do you see it? What have you chosen to do? And I'll give you a perfect example. Okay. First and foremost, I'm a child of God.
Amen.
Now, thank you, and you too, sister.
Yes.
Watch what this does for me. Knowing I'm a child of God eliminates so many other distractions that other people would fall into.
Yes.
I already know who I'm supposed to be, and therefore I know who I am not supposed to be. So when things come into my mind, they quickly get compartmentalized, yes or no, because I know who I am. I know my identity. Other people who don't know their identity, everything comes in, they're not sure how to handle it. Yeah. So they start trying to figure out, well, and most of the times, what do people do to assess? Is this going to make them feel good? Well, sometimes that's the worst thing you can do. As a child of God, I'm not interested in how I feel. I'm interested in how I perform. Yes. As an athlete, I'm not interested in how I feel. I'm interested in how I perform. I can override my feelings because I've been trained to do it. Yes. But those two things formulate, in large part, how I conduct my life. I know who I am, therefore I know who I am not. And the real key to this, and this is so important, because if you don't know this, if you haven't figured out who you are, then the world can come at any time and ascribe characteristics to you, put them on you, and you won't know any better. And then pretty soon you're being indoctrinated by the news, by the media, by what you want. See, and those things are created to keep people coming back. And how best do you do that? You create problems. Problems that only they can solve. Keeps you hooked, keeps you coming back, and it drags you into a spiraling effect, oftentimes, I'm sorry to say, downward. So I think I even told you this. Maybe I didn't. Please forgive me if I haven't. I speak so often, but do you know I won't watch a movie without knowing the ending first?
Oh,
Did I tell you this?
noted.
I will not watch a movie unless I know the ending first, because I don't want to waste my time watching
Yeah.
something that's going to take me in a direction that is not biblical.
Yeah.
So I need to know. People are like, well, how could you do that? You're ruining the surprise. That's the point. I don't want a surprise.
No.
I know who I am. I know
Yes.
who I am not. I don't
Yes.
want to give anybody anything that's going to take away from who I'm supposed to be and how I'm doing it.
Mm.
Movie until I know what the ending is. And if I like the ending, then I'll go see the movie, or then I'll watch it or whatever. But if
Yeah.
I don't like the ending, I'm not buying into it. I'm not buying into a culture that will take me in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And why am I doing that? Because I know who I am and I know who I'm not. Now that identity builds my culture, my way of life. My way of life determines my habits.
Mm.
My habits determine my outcomes. That's why I wanted to start at the end and come and then bring it all the way back again. So I hope that makes sense. And I hope I explained it in a way where sometimes I'm not as smart as I'd like to be. So I try to explain things the best I can. But to me, that's how it's done. You have to choose an identity, and it's got to be a productive identity. Or, I'm sorry, we can't hang out together. I just can't. Look, I'll help anybody. If I can help someone and they want to help, I'm right there with you.
Mm.
I cannot be pulled into a vortex that takes me in the wrong direction, because then you have two losers, right? I can't afford that. That's how people spiral downward.
Yeah.
If you want to raise your game, I can help you. And I think I would hope most people that are blessed enough to be champions would do the same thing. But that's how a culture of excellence, not so much a culture of success, but a culture of excellence. And I always say that if you're excellent, you don't have to worry about success. Success will find you. You don't have to worry.
That's it. A focus. I love the way that you articulated that, and you did explain it very, very well. I did not know that you don't watch a movie if you don't know the ending. So that's very, very interesting. I actually said in our podcast last week, when we were talking about obstacles in business, and I actually said, in the movie industry, I believe I learned this from Silvio C. one of the actors that I interviewed. Sometimes they shoot the end of the movie first before they shoot the beginning. And I said, we can apply that in business as well. Look at your goal and your vision and start, if you have obstacles, start from 9 to 1 instead of step 1 to 9. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. I love the fact that you mentioned the culture and the identity, the choices. We know as children of God who we are supposed to be, who we are and who we are not. And those external influences, there are so many external influences working in on us every single day. People, situations, media, social media, the things that we see, the things that we watch. If you don't know your identity, like Bill said, that is just going to influence you to go this way and that way, and you will never know what you want or what you want to do or where you are headed, and you'll just end up, like you said, wasting time. And we don't have time to waste. There's no time to waste when we are pursuing excellence. So I want to talk a little bit about mind performance training, because I believe that will help, in finding that identity. If there's someone in the audience that are not sure who they are, how do you go about, pursuing that excellence using mind performance training?
Well, so the mind performance training it's just a term that I came up with, but it's really not my idea. It goes way back to, pardon me. I believe the Russians actually developed it for their athletes. It's just that what I've done now is I've just incorporated all the new science, because years ago, when we talked about how the mind was connected to the body, all of the evidence was anecdotal. Right? I would talk to my coach. My coach would say, look, you got to think this way. You got to think. But they really didn't have any evidence other than it worked for me and it worked for him and it worked for her. So it's got to work for you too.
Yeah.
Now you can see all of this. You can see the brain light up. You can measure the blood. You can measure the chemical releases. So we know now that every thought changes the blood. And when it comes to my performance training, and I can walk you through kind of the process that I use, but it's specifically geared the way I do it is much like we did at the Olympic Training Center. It's geared specifically towards someone's goals. And the idea is you're going to see this so many times that you're training your subconscious, which does not know the difference between reality and fiction.
That's it.
That's the whole idea. We're teaching the subconscious to respond the right way under the most difficult of situations, not react, but respond. So, you know, the difference between the way I do it now and the way I was trained to do it was that years ago, they basically kind of, I won't say hypnotized you, but, you know, you kind of went to sleep and that was the whole idea. You breathed a certain way to simulate sleeping.
Yes.
You went through a number of body relaxation techniques, all designed really to do one thing, and that was to shut the conscious down. Because when the conscious shuts down, it doesn't regulate the subconscious anymore.
Yes.
So to make it simpler, what we're trying to do is trick the subconscious mind into thinking that it's sleep. When it thinks it's sleep, it opens up. And now you're ready to put the thoughts into your head that you need to perform the best that you can. So we go through a series of breathing techniques and then body relaxation. And again, as I was saying, the real difference is now the way they used to do it is they'd put you to sleep, and you know sometimes you'd fall asleep, sometimes you wouldn't.
Yeah.
But you weren't an active participant in it, other than you were thinking what they told you to think. Now the science is much clearer about this, that we need to attach behavior to this. So I will actually have people, like I just did a session Saturday for some football players. And while they were, you know, their eyes were shut, we went through all the process. And now as I'm filling them in their heads with only the positive things, game situations, the whole nine, I'm actually having them as their eyes are shut. I would say, now receive the ball, and they'll catch it and they'll pull it in. You know, and I would say, now do it in slow-mo, do it. I want 5 perfect reps. So their subconscious is open, but now physically, right? Because when you say something out loud, it's 40 times more powerful than just thinking. In other words, the chemical release is 40 times more powerful. So hearing me say it and you saying it yourself is good, but it's not the best we could be. It's successful, but it's not excellent.
Yeah. So
if I have moments where you are repeating what I'm saying, that behavior, because speaking is a behavior overrides thoughts. So when you behave a certain way, your body automatically releases chemicals. If you watch, right, you watch an athlete, and if you've ever seen them, or even a martial artist when they're practicing your own experiences, you might have some doubts. You know, you're fighting inside your head, right? Inside your head for control of your mind. And then when you do it and you're successful or excellent, and you've actually accomplished this, watch the chemical release and watch how happy people get. Because behavior beats thoughts. So when you behave a certain way, the thoughts will follow. See, it's very true that thinking influences behavior, but behavior influences thinking too.
Yeah.
So if we can put all that together, then we have a pretty good control of what we're supposed to be thinking and seeing as we move forward throughout the contest or with life. Right? It could be somebody they have to overcome the fear of public speaking. So how do we do this? Right? I mean, excuse me one second. Allergies. You know, I mean, when I first started public speaking, I don't know if I'd ever told you, but again, coming from behind the curve. When I was a little boy, cars would drive down my street. If I were outside playing, I did not want to be seen. I was so self-conscious, so insecure. I would run behind the bushes so nobody would see me. That's how afraid I was to be seen in public under any circumstances. So to go from there to speaking in front of thousands of people, is a process. So how does this happen?
Sis.
Not by accident. I mean, it's a lot of work, a lot of great coaching. A number of factors come in, and thank Jesus above,
Amen.
and right in here too. But yes, these are, there's a process to this. There's a process to becoming the best you can be. It doesn't just happen by accident. And you have to have, if you're going to be the best you can be, you have to have the whole thing right. You got to have the 4 parts, right? You got to have your spiritual life in order. You got to have your physical life in order, your mental life in order, and your emotional life in order. They all have to be firing at the same time in the same direction. Because if you got a weakness and it's holding you back and that gets exposed, you're going to have that weakness will be exposed by whatever force you're competing against.
That's the truth. And in martial arts, I'm thinking martial arts while you are crossing the 4 pillars. You'll know in martial arts it's the same. Your body, your soul, your spirit, breathing, all has to be aligned in that same manner. And how do you take control of that? You really take control of your thoughts. So we have this thing at our dojo. When you come to class, doesn't matter if the whole world is falling apart out there. When you step into that dojo, when you take that bow, when you enter the building, you leave whatever is happening out there because you are there to train and you are there to focus. And you were talking about, when you're fighting, those intrusive thoughts, because sometimes people overthink when they fight. What will I do next? I'm trying to get that rhythm. The moment you forget about what you want to do and you just fight and you let your body and everything align, all those parts of you align, that is when you start fighting well. And when you have that excellence and that success. So what I do is I sing a song in my mind. I try not to think about what I'm going to do next. I sing a song. And the lyrics kind of carry me away and I just enjoy the process. So there's so much that we can do with our subconscious and our conscious mind. We just have to delve into those studies and that research.
Yeah, it's so true. And everything you said, I could not agree with more. This is the process. And when you say, you just let it go, right? A lot of times you'll hear, at least in America, you'll hear announcers say something like, well, he or she is playing unconscious. What that means is that they are no longer thinking. They're just doing what they've been trained to do, right? That's the response, not a reaction. It's a response. You've thrown this kick, you've thrown this punch, you've done this hold, you've done this takedown so many times under so many different conditions. It doesn't matter. This is just what we do now. That's right. That's the conditioned response. And that can only be developed through very, very difficult, grinding, hard work, optimal hard work over and over and over. And I love what you said too about the minute you step into the dojo, because there's so many similarities between lifting and the martial arts. My coach used to tell me, Bill, I don't care what's going on. You leave your problems at the door. And you know what? They'll still be there waiting for you when you come back outside. And I thought, it's because you do, life happens. And now you got to go take on whatever the case may be, heavy weights, or you're wrestling with good opponents, whatever it is. But if you're still divided in your mind between the problem and this, well, a mind divided is a mind defeated. So, so my coaches tell me, Bill, whatever, just leave them at the door. Write them down if you have to. Write down your problems in your car. But then when you step out, he goes, I promise you one thing. You will never come back to your car and not have the same problem. Their problems are very patient. They will wait for you. And in the worst case scenario is that you'll see that the problems, some of them actually went away.
Yes.
They'll never get worse. They will never get worse. So some of them went away. Some of them stayed the same. They never got worse. And you know what? And plus, you go into the gym, you go train, you go into the dojo, wherever you are, and you're competing. That that changes the chemistry of your blood.
Mm-hmm.
So now you come out with a fresh mindset. The world is a little bit different. Your perceptions have changed. Now maybe you're a little better to handle what's coming at you.
I love that. I agree with you 100%. Sometimes, like you said, we just have to put that aside. And when we go through that training, we come out, like you said, we have a new perception. Sometimes we have the answer within ourselves already. But we were so busy pondering on that problem, we couldn't see it. So that's what I love about, everything that we do out there. It really imparts into us that wisdom, and it's a process. It shapes our character, shapes us as human beings and as believers. And I listened to the Fox 40 Monday Motivation, one of those links. And I want to, what you said was so exceptional. I wanted you to illustrate to the audience. I believe it was about talent versus skill. And you used an example of swimming. Take us into that illustration, please. That was phenomenal.
Well, thank you very kindly. Now, to be honest with you, I don't remember this one. I do them so I have a TV show. It's a segment on the evening news on Sundays leading into the week. It's called Monday Motivation. And so I record them on Thursday evenings, which I'll be at the studio here very shortly. And then, so if you go to the wicz.com, if anybody out there would like to, I'd be very honored. But you can see the whole bunch of these, and you look up, I don't know, you probably just Google Monday Motivation with Bill Clark, or just Bill Clark, and you'll probably see them. But nonetheless, so talent versus skill. So this one, I just don't remember the analogy of swimming, but I'm sure I could figure it out.
It was about not being an Olympic swimmer.
Okay, I remember now. I remember, yes. Yeah, thank you. So talent is what you're born with.
Yes.
Talent is what you're born with. Skill is the hours of practice that you put in to develop the talent. Yes. And you have to have both. But it's a very misunderstood concept, because people think that talent and skill are the same, and they are absolutely not. So, when I was at the Olympic Training Center, I would notice athletes almost like prototypes. It was almost like prototypes. Like you looked at swimmers. All the swimmers look the same. I mean, in terms of body mechanics, in terms of body structure, they all look the same. Watch them on TV, and I think you'll agree. They all have the same type of body. Yes. You look at a gymnast, they will all look the same. I mean, the gymnasts out there are 5 foot. The male gymnasts are 5'4", 5'5", 120 pounds. They're very lean, but they're small in stature, and it makes a lot of sense. They got to fly around all over the place. Well, a 220-pound guy doesn't fly around like that and do it nearly as gracefully as somebody like that does, right? I mean, nobody wants to see me going from the ropes and everything else. But yeah, that's a good picture in your head, right? 220 pounds flying all over the place. But they're very, very talented, meaning they were born with this.
Yes.
Then they had to go practice and practice and practice, which, quite frankly, there are probably hundreds and thousands of people out there that have the same talent that an Olympic gymnast does. The question is, are they going to take the time to develop it through the skill set? And most won't. That's the problem. Most won't. Either they don't want to, they don't like it, which I understand. Or two, it's just so difficult that they think, who cares? I'd rather go do this, because they've never found that identity. The identity is not as a gymnast. If the identity is as a gymnast, then you follow the gymnast culture. And that's what you do. You grind that out as a gymnast would do. And it's the same for swimming or weightlifting or kickboxing or wrestling or whatever. Yeah. So what I would see is that each sport had its own kind of body type. Like the ping pong guys and the ping pong women. Tiny. Yeah, I just looked at them. I was like, oh my gosh. But they moved, and they were so good at what they did. I'm never going to be able to do what they do. I could practice and practice and practice, and I will never be able to do what they do. However, they will never be able to do what I do either.
Exactly.
So, and that's the thing, right? We all have a gift. And that's why I decided, looking around at all kinds of athletes around, and not just at the Olympic Training Center, but I have friends of mine that played in the NFL. National Football League. I have friends that played Major League Baseball, and I see what they do. And yeah, maybe I could do some of those things. Maybe baseball. A football I could play probably is a 220. I don't know if I got a little heavier, maybe a fullback. But I would never be an NFL lineman. Those guys are 6'3". I'm not 6'3".
Yeah.
They're 330 pounds. I'm 220 pounds.
Yes.
And no matter how many cookies I eat, I'm never going to be 330 pounds because I was not born to do that.
That's it.
So telling people that you can be anything you want is an absolute lie.
Yeah.
And we should not be promoting this. It's not right. It's wrong for kids to understand this or to think this way, because then they lose faith in us as mentors. We should not be lying to them, telling them you can be anything you want. No, you can't. But you can be something great.
Yes, it's within you.
And most people have several talents within them. Most people have a couple to choose from.
Yes.
Nobody was put on this earth, as you and I would believe, by God to fail. You're not setting you up to fail, but you have to know, right? And if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to, quote and misquote the Bible, so I won't. But I will kind of give like a look. We're here to serve God. I'm sorry.
You're going to rephrase it.
Yeah, something like that. But I think people will get the meaning, right? If our job is to serve God, then how can we be anything we want if our job is to serve God? No. And it's pretty clear that we can't be anything we want. We can be something great according to God's will.
Beautiful.
Now, for people out there that don't believe as I do, hey, that's okay. I love you either way. But you have to understand that when you go out and you look at society, whether you believe as I do or don't, the evidence is very clear. All you have to do is ask yourself, can you do what I do? Probably not. Can I do what you do? Probably not. Can somebody else do what you do to your level? Probably not. That tells us everything we need to know. You cannot be anything you want. Now, that doesn't sound, because I'm sure that, there's probably people going, who brought this guy in to speak so motivationally? But if the truth is, it is. It is inspiring, because I'm eliminating a lot of things that if you think this through, you'll recognize are not for you. That's why your identity is so important. You have to know where your talent lies. Your identity tells you what you should and should not do. That develops your culture. Culture develops your habits, and your habits develop the outcomes that will determine your life.
That's the truth.
It's talent is what you're born with, and I could promise everybody out there, and I know that I've heard, I have a for lack of a better word, I'll call him an enthusiast, but he writes me all the time, and he asks for autographs and things, and he's a sweetheart of a kid. He was born with what they call Down syndrome. Right? Now, this kid is never going to be able to do what I do. He's never going to be a champion wrestler. He's never going to, but he is the funniest young man you will ever see. And he's now pursuing a stand-up comedy. And you know what? He's going to be big. He's going to be amazing because he found his talent.
Yes.
And he's developing it. Yeah. So every once in a while I will see him and he'll ask me, so what do you think? How do I said, get in front of a mirror, film yourself, craft your jokes, practice. If you need an audience, I can arrange that for you. I can bring you in and you can talk in front of some people. You can do things like this to help you improve your game. But that's what this is all about. Talent is what you're born with. But I will promise everybody out there has a talent.
Absolutely.
Everybody's got one. There's something that you can do that nobody else can do as well as you do. Or there's a whole group of you and you're all competing for that one prize. And okay, so maybe you don't win the world championships, but silver medals are okay. Right? As long as you're becoming the best you can be through that process, then you're going to be very content with who you've become. And skill, of course, is just the grinding hours. And to
Yes.
me, that's what separates the best from the rest, right? The best in any field, they're up
It's
before anybody else.
yes.
They're giving up things that other people say, no, I'm not going to get. I want to go out and I want to drink tonight. Okay, go ahead. But the person you're competing against might not be.
They might be working out.
You know, and I don't know if I told you this, but the night I won my first world championship,
Yeah.
it was in Las Vegas. You know, a lot of the guys were going out. I never did, and I think we talked about that last time. I never did that. But you know where I went? I went back to the gym. I went back to the gym and I started training again. And the reason I did that was because, well, actually, first I take that back. First, I went down to the store and I got a sandwich. I got a couple sandwiches and a couple sandwiches.
Fuel.
Yeah. I went back to the hotel room and I kind of sat around for a little bit and took it in. I made some phone calls. And then, you know, everybody was getting together. And I thought, geez, you know, first of all, going out was not my lifestyle. Again, who am I? Who am I not?
Yes.
But, you know, the other thing, too, that crossed my mind is here these guys are going to go out, and God love them. They're all good friends of mine and great champions.
Yeah.
But they're going to go out and, you know, to the level that they're going to be engaging in alcohol or whatever, that you get intoxicated. That takes 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Your nervous system takes 2 weeks to recover from intoxication.
Wow.
And then you're coming off the stressors of a you know, the world's premier meet. So what are they doing? They're taking themselves and they're going downhill.
Yes.
I thought, geez, if I can get back into the gym while they're going down, I'll be coming up. That creates a bigger gap between me and them.
Yeah.
That puts me on a pretty good jump start for next year.
Yes.
Right? And that's, to me, you know, I was asked one time, you know, when did you start preparing for the next World Championships? I said, as soon as I won the first.
That's it.
I'm not taking days off. I'm not taking breaks. I'm heading right into it again because I know what it takes and the level of commitment that is necessary for me.
Yeah.
I can't, you know, I can't short circuit my pursuit of excellence by being anything less than I think I could be. And that's not in terms of performance. That's in terms of effort, right? That skill, that grinding it out.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is what determines so often where we end up.
That's the truth. That's the truth. You know, that effort, those hours that you put in, it all culminates to that day when we are in that match. It all builds up to that moment. And I agree with you because when we go to the nationals, when we come back, we start training for the next nationals. We don't take breaks. We start training again for next year. So I love that. I love that. Bill, you have been an exceptional guest here on Meticulous Moments. You've been making history with your third session. Thank you so much for the Bill Clark trilogy of strengths that you've, formatted here with me. And as we come to a close, because I know you have to go to the Fox 40 studio, you have recordings to do. Would you like to leave the audience with words of wisdom before we sign off?
Well, before we do that, thank you so much again. It has been my pleasure to spend this time with you. And again, you know, I mean, I would love to come and make it a fourth time at some point. So you let me know. I'd be happy to do it. I thoroughly enjoy this. You're very, very good at what you do. So you are appreciated. Believe me, you're appreciated. You keep making the world a better place, and moment by moment, day by day, we're going to get it. So thank you very kindly.
Thank you, Paul.
And everybody else out there watching, thank you so much. I appreciate you too. So my last moment of wisdom for the day, right?
Yes.
Every day is a blessing.
Amen.
You have to see it like this. Everybody has a choice. Perceptions are always a choice. You can perceive life like you're a victim, and that's where you're going to go. Or you can perceive difficulties as opportunities and take yourself to the next level. Champions are never by mistake. It's a process. And when I say champion, I'm not talking about gold medals. I'm not talking about awards. I'm talking about becoming the best that you can be, and in so doing, making the world a better place. You do this, you will be very content with your life. So I wish everybody out there the best. again, thank you so much for having me. I love you all. God bless you. And thank you again, Juanita.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your day. You are amazing. And yes, we definitely have to do a fourth session. Absolutely. God bless you and your beautiful family. And I'll see you soon.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Bye bye. Thank you.